live in interesting times. Today's stories. British Prime Minister calls for party unity on Brexit. French Interior Minister quits and the Prime Minister temporarily takes over. Indonesian Navy evacuates 1,600 people from tsunami-hit Palu. International Court of Justice orders the U.S. to halt humanitarian Iran sanctions. President Trump mocks Kavanaugh's accuser during a rally in Mississippi. Plus, calm and collected interior designs please a Vancouver audience. Hello everyone, I'm Anna Kui, bringing you stories from around the globe, and this is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Prime Minister Theresa May appealed for her bickering party on Wednesday to unite at the toughest phase of negotiations aimed at averting economic chaos once Britain leaves the European Union in 6 months.
Those of us who do respect the result, whichever side of the question we stood on 2 years ago, need to come together now. If we don't, if we all go off in different directions in pursuit of our own visions of the perfect Brexit, we risk ending up with no Brexit at all. Their latest plan is to hold a second referendum. They call it a people's vote. But we had the people's vote, and the people chose to leave.
It was one of the biggest speeches of her political career. May is buffeted from all directions, with European officials anxious that the two sides are heading for a messy divorce. Following warnings of the potentially calamitous impact a no-deal Brexit would have on trade, France's budget minister admitted on Tuesday that Paris was preparing for the worst. But May's immediate concern was to regain the confidence of her party and present a united front in crucial negotiations with Brussels over the next 2 weeks. She mixed optimism with a show of determination in a sweeping hour-long address. May said she passionately believes that their best days lie ahead of that their future is full of promise. Yet May currently has a mini revolt on her hands from some members of her party, as well as facing pressure from EU officials determined to stick to their guns. Eurosceptic MPs, led by former Foreign Minister Boris Johnson, have held a string of packed fringe meetings to argue against May's proposal for Britain to follow EU trade rules on goods after it leaves. Johnson and others say such a close partnership would ignore the wishes of voters who backed the Brexit referendum in 2016. They want a clean break. EU officials argue that May is asking for too much, cherry-picking the benefits of a union while still leaving the bloc. May insists her ideas offer the only way to protect jobs and trade, while also avoiding physical checks on Britain's land border with EU member Ireland. French President Emmanuel Macron was left scrambling to fill another key cabinet post Wednesday after Interior Minister Gérard Collomb resigned, the third minister to step down in 2 months. Prime Minister Édouard Philippe took temporary control of the Interior Ministry while Macron began searching for a replacement for 71-year-old Collomb, who was one of the first politicians to back him for president. The fate of Collomb, nicknamed France's top cop because his ministry is in charge of security and immigration, has thrown the government into flux.
Grâce à vous tous, il y a une continuité de l'État. Et on l'a vu encore ce matin, le ministre allait démissionner. Cela n'a pas empêché les policiers d'arrêter Redouane Faïd. Et donc voilà, c'est la continuité de l'action de l'État. Merci à chacune et à chacun d'entre vous. Il restera toujours une petite part de vous dans mon cœur.
Macron initially refused his resignation on Monday, but on Tuesday night gave in to Collomb's request to be allowed to run again for his former job as mayor of the eastern city of Lyon. The Liberation newspaper described the back and forth as extraordinary dilly-dallying, which seems more like something from a music hall than government politics. Collomb's departure adds to the woes of the France's centrist leader, who is battling record low approval ratings after 17 months in power. It comes just weeks after Popular Environment Minister Nicolas Hulot resigned live on radio without warning Macron, saying he felt all alone in the government on green issues. Philippe vowed at a handover ceremony Wednesday to maintain the highest level of security for French people while in charge of the Interior Ministry.
Pendant ces 16 mois, j'ai pu apprécier la très grande culture qui est la vôtre, le caractère direct de l'expression, le sens de la mission, l'attachement à ce qui vous a construit, votre famille, vos idées, votre ville, tout ce qui fait que l'on est un homme ou une femme complet. Vous avez dit, Monsieur le Ministre, que vous aviez aimé travailler au ministère de l'Intérieur. Eh bien, je vous dis, Monsieur le Ministre, que j'ai pour ma part aimé travailler avec vous.
Indonesian Navy warship KRI Makassar evacuates 1,600 people out of tsunami-hit city of Palu.
Ya, untuk cari aman, karena dengar-dengar sudah mulai naik lumpur, sekitaran 30-40 orang.
Dari Makassar dalam rangka mengangkut bahan-bahan kontak kemanusiaan yang akan diserahkan ke wilayah Sulawesi Tengah, khususnya untuk Kota Palu dan Donggala. Hari ini KRI Makassar bergerak menuju ke Makassar dengan mengangkut sekitar 1.603 penumpang warga Kota Palu maupun sekitar Donggala dan Sigi untuk digerakkan diangkut menuju ke Kota Makassar.
Up next, International Court of Justice orders the U.S. to halt humanitarian Iran sanctions. President Trump mocks Kavanaugh's accuser during a rally in Mississippi. Eagle News Washington, D.C. will return in a moment. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. The UN's top court ordered the United States Wednesday to suspend sanctions on humanitarian goods for Iran in a stunning setback for U.S. President Donald Trump. The International Court of Justice, or ICJ, handed down the judgment after Iran asked it to halt economic measures that Trump reimposed after pulling out of a landmark nuclear deal with Tehran. Judges in The Hague unanimously ruled that the sanctions on some goods breached a 1955 friendship treaty between Iran and the U.S. that predates Iran's Islamic Revolution.
Please be seated. The Court considers that the United States, in accordance with its obligations under the 1955 treaty, must remove by means of its choosing any impediment arising from the measures announced on 8 May 2018 to the free exportation to the territory of Iran of goods required for humanitarian needs. The United States of America shall ensure that licenses and necessary authorizations are granted and that payments and other transfer of funds are not subject to any restriction insofar as they relate to the goods and services referred to in point 1.
The court said sanctions on goods required for humanitarian needs may have a serious detrimental impact on the health and lives of individuals on the territory of Iran. U.S. sanctions also had the potential to endanger civil aviation safety in Iran and the lives of its users. President Donald Trump on Tuesday openly mocked a university professor who was accused a Supreme Court nominee of sexual assault, joking about her inability to remember details surrounding the night of the alleged attack. It marked an aggressive change of tactics after Trump had opted to show restraint towards Christine Blasey Ford, calling her a very credible witness following her Senate testimony against Judge Brett Kavanaugh last week.
How did you get home? I don't remember. How'd you get there? I don't remember. Where is the place? I don't remember. How many years ago was it? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What neighborhood was it in? I don't know. Where's the house? I don't know. Upstairs, downstairs, where was it? I don't know. But I had one beer. That's the only thing I remember.
The attack quickly drew scorn from critics, who said such taunts were part of the reason survivors of sexual assault are afraid to go public. Michael Bromwich, a former high-ranking Department of Justice official who is currently representing the psychology professor, tweeted, "A vicious, vile, and soulless attack on Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. Is it any wonder that she was terrified to come forward and that other sexual assault survivors are as well? She is a remarkable profile in courage. He is a profile in cowardice." In her emotional testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee last Thursday, watched live by 20 million Americans, Blasey Ford said she was 100% sure Kavanaugh had attempted to rape her in the summer of 1982, when they were both high school students attending a party. A defiant Kavanaugh came out with guns blazing, insisting the assault never happened, accusing Democrats of destroying his reputation and condemning his confirmation battle as a national disgrace. Coming up, calm and collected interior designs please a Vancouver audience. Eagle News Washington, D.C. will return shortly. This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. I'm Anna Queen. Surface and Depth is this year's theme for the Interior Design Show Vancouver, aiming to present living spaces that do not only aesthetically please the eyes, but also positively impact your feelings and the environment. Eagle News correspondent Arnie Aquino reports.
Calm, cool, and collected. Despite the buzzing energy here at Vancouver Convention Center, the vibe here is, oddly enough, warm and comforting. The exhibits are carefully curated to showcase calm, contemporary designs with a splash of nature, as is characteristic of the Pacific Northwest. IDS Vancouver Director Jody Phillips talks about the show's theme this year.
Every year we do have a theme, and this year the theme is surface and depth. And the surface and depth refers to the fact that design can be aesthetically beautiful and pleasing to the eye, but it also can be good design can impact how you live and move and feel, and can impact your environment. Well, actually, Canadian by Nature is a play on that a little bit. So this is the second iteration. The first one was an installation in Toronto in January, a feature with the same name. This one was curated by myself, and the visual direction is by Glassford and Walker, a design and branding team from Vancouver, based here. And we wanted the content to encompass all different types of design and designers from all across Canada, but with a bit of a more focus here on the Pacific Northwest. So yeah, the whole nature thing is definitely part of this.
Susanna Yorkland, a trend analyst from Helsinki, speaks about her thought process in curating her exhibit.
I curate trend exhibitions also for a Habitat Fair in Finland every year, and the process is such that here we have works by 30 designers or companies. Okay. So we are featuring all kinds of design, but also art and immaterial innovations and companies. The idea was to actually have many levels to showcase the latest design in Finland. We have products from the Young Designer of the Year Andrea Hartikainen, we have loads of others. And then also to showcase innovations, like I mentioned, and also to talk about a little bit what Finland is about. That's why we have a video of the Finnish weather, for instance, showing in a window and things like that.
Ali Veldry talks about his inspiration for his featured collection.
Yeah, so I collaborated with Montreal-based company Mobilia on a furniture collection called Modern India. So it was an awesome collection that we worked on. I went to India for 4 days. We designed it in Canada and then had it manufactured in India. So the whole inspiration is behind beautiful textures, marbles, lots of kind of handmade goods, beautiful lighting pieces as well, and also kind of a nod to everything handmade. You know what, I think when people think of, you know, traditional India, they think of beautiful kind of hand-carved kind of pieces, lots of wood, lots of marble, lots of color as well. So we really kind of minimalized the color portion of it. So we did things that are a little bit more neutral. Like the wood piece here, for example, you can see that it's whitewashed, but it has just some beautiful kind of texture to it. So it is hand-carved, but done in a modern way. So it's more kind of geometric rather than kind of floral. And then, of course, the hand kind of done textiles that we have, the beautiful stitching techniques, and then the use of brass as well. I think brass is something that's really on trend and super Indian as well, because brass was used a lot in India, but again, we've refined it by doing it in subtle ways and in modern ways and just using little hints of it. You know what, IDS Vancouver I think is an awesome platform. I think it's great because it really helps designers kind of get out there, and it helps to educate the public in what's going on, what's trendy in design, and really helps kind of local Canadian designers kind of get their name out there, and promotes companies like Mobilia that are Canadian and doing great things with Canadian designers.
Reporting from the Vancouver Convention Center here in Vancouver, my name is Arnie Aquino, 1 with 25.
Who wouldn't love to come home to spaces like those? That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Join us tomorrow for the weekend edition. Visit our websites at Eaglenews.PH and EagleNewsLive.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. Thank you for watching. I'm Anna Clee and I am 1 with 25.